And record.
Hello. Awesome.
Okay. High five.
Yeah. 3, 2, 1.
We're getting pretty good at that.
Yes, we are. All right. So what are we doing today?
So today, what we have is our top 5 movies of the year. We've watched a lot of movies recently. Most of them are in the back half of the year, as they always are. But we've done some work. 2021's over, and we're just talking about what the year was, what movies came out, what struck us the best, and everything like that. So,
Yeah.
you want to start us off a little?
Yeah, I think for this year, I was a little bit unhyped for a lot of the movies, and so I'm going to be totally honest and say that I did not watch a lot of the movies that came out this year. So if my list is just like horribly egregious, then that is the reason. And I even had this weekend to catch up on Licorice Pizza, Red Rocket, that kind of stuff, and I just decided to watch Legion with my friend.
I mean, it's fine, you know?
Yeah.
Like, as long we've got good movies on our list.
I think so too.
I think we have movies that could be argued are the top 5 movies of the year, even if we watched all of them.
Mm-hmm. I think so too. I don't think my picks are that bad, but so yeah, I think the honorable mentions we might want to bring up first. Yeah. Let's do one at a time. So I think my first honorable mention might catch everyone by surprise is gonna be Spider-Man No Way Home.
No way.
Yeah, that's probably the only surprise on my list.
You caught me by surprise.
I was saving that one. I think it deserved Oscar nomination in some category besides special effects, right?
Wow.
Or like, yeah, because I understand the difficulty of nominating something that makes so much money in a pretentious sense, but I also agree that things that are universal, you know, things like Star Wars and that kind of stuff, they have these stories that may seem basic to some, but the execution is the way that makes it really good. And I felt that with Spider-Man No Way Home, and I feel like it deserves that recognition. And even though I could see the beats coming a little bit ahead, I couldn't predict the whole movie. And I felt even though if you knew what was coming next, it still hit. And the acting and the pace of the story, it still had an emotional effect on me. And I think that that's worth mentioning, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, I liked Spider-Man. I had no idea you were going to put it in an honorable mention.
Me of all people?
Yeah, I thought if anyone was going to do it, it'd be me. But I do have to disagree with you a little bit.
Oh, okay.
I thought it was a really good movie. I would definitely not nominate it for any Oscars.
Okay.
I didn't feel like it really executed as good as, you know, a serious, like, genuine drama or any of the other movies we're probably going to talk about. But I love the action. I love what they did with it. I don't hate the movie at all. It's just there's just some beats where, you know, like you said, you know what's coming, and Marvel's got a very similar formula at this point, and I love the formula, and I love all their movies even to this day. I'm a big Marvel fan, as you know, but I wouldn't necessarily consider it to be the best or the highest quality of anything. But I know this is our favorites list, so it's not exactly about that.
Just like, you know, we're not going to get too hard into the debate, but I feel that I have definitely been a lot more tired of the Marvel formula, and the fact that this one kind of like surprised me in its heart and in its storyline, I guess. I think that may be a little bit of a switch between you and I, in the sense of like I hold a lot less expectations for the new Marvel movie.
Yeah,
and so being surprised in any sense was really up there for me. But
so you liked it more than Shang-Chi?
I did.
Wow. Wow.
I did. I guess the biggest thing is like I like the kaiju battle, and we talked about this a little after we finished. I like the kaiju battle in the sense that like it was surprising to me, but then after the surprise factor, it really just felt like, you know, a kaiju battle. So that was a little bit of my ending tastes on like Shang-Chi, and that's Shang-Chi, and that's why it didn't really make it up. But honestly, it's kind of close.
Yeah. I like Shang-Chi more, but I know there's a lot of people in that camp too. So, all right. Well, I guess I can say my first honorable mention.
Yeah.
We kind of go like back and forth.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea.
Good. Okay. What was my first honorable mention? It is Red Rocket. My first honorable mention is by the director of Tangerine and the Florida Project, and this is their new directorial efforts surrounding a ex-porn star / producer that comes back to his home in Texas because he's broke to hang out with his ex-wife, who he estranged, and shenanigans ensue. I think shenanigans.
Yeah, this was probably one of the ones I was looking forward to the most in this year, and yet I still didn't watch it. So that says a lot.
I know you love the Florida Project.
Yeah, that was probably one of my favorite movies of that year, if not like up in the top like 3. So I really like that. And we were talking about this earlier, again, not to reference a lot of conversations that we have, but gentrification and being set in that type of middle ground between rich and fantasy and real life, that was hitting the notes for me. And I haven't seen Tangerine, but from reading the the little summaries on each of his movies, I feel like Sean Baker is really interested in a realistic depiction of what it means to live in America, not glamorized, maybe not too like poverty stricken or anything like that, but just this little melancholic middle. And that's what was really exciting for me for Red Rocket, even though I hadn't watched it.
Yeah, there's a lot of great things with this movie, and I struggled to not put in my top 5 because it is so good. There's a couple things about it that I love. There's the lead performance. I don't remember the guy's name off the top of my head because he's not really in anything else. But I could argue that he gave the best performance of the year.
Oh,
total.
Okay.
At least for a male actor. I don't know about for female actors, but actresses. But he was so charismatic and he had so much energy, and you can tell it was just brilliant casting. He sold every line. It was so interesting and inviting, and the story was great. The characters were great, and I think one thing Sean Baker does really well is the setting and the scenery. He did a great job with the hotel / complex in the Florida Project, and he does a great job here depicting rural Texas, which is something that we're not exactly familiar with, but
we get close.
We're a lot closer than Florida. And I think he does a really good job with that. A couple things that held me back from bringing on the top 5, though, is, like you said, he's really good at making his movies realistic, and they feel like, it almost feels like you're not watching a movie, you're watching like a chronicle of life. Yeah. And Red Rocket does that the least of all. It's the most film-like. Okay. It's not necessarily in a bad way, but there were certain beats that felt like it just didn't feel like real life. Like the ending, a little bit felt like it wrapped up in a bow a little too tight.
That's interesting.
Just stuff like that, but those are minor. Like I actually liked the tone, what he went for, what he did. And I liked everything he was going for. So Red Rocket's a big one for me.
Sounds good. To bring up my second honorable mention is going to be A Hero, an Iranian film. Yeah, an Iranian film that I think got nominated for Best Foreign Film this year.
It has.
Yes. Yeah. So you guys should check it out because it is awesome. And it just chronicles this guy's struggle to do good, essentially, but get wrapped up into the politics and the public awareness, I guess, of his actions. It's like he did something nice for someone, which is like pick up their was it the purse or something like that?
Yeah.
And yet, like, you know, these total motives, to give a little bit about the plot, is that like he held it for a little while, but he didn't give it up right away. But then when he felt that someone needed it, he gave it up, that type of thing. And then people kind of paint him as a good guy because he gave up all this money even though he's in jail, but then as a bad guy because he held it for a little while and he didn't give it away right away. And it just follows this guy who's just trying to like do what's best for him and not trying to get painted as a hero or as a bad guy, but as the media and the public, they have to put him in one of these camps, a hero or a bad guy. And his struggle on trying to be a human being who makes mistakes, viewed from the lens of the public, I guess.
Yeah, I loved this movie, and it blew my expectations away in that it was the foreign film that got nominated that I knew the least about, and I felt like had the least amount of hype, as opposed to Worst Person in the World, Drive My Car, two movies that we will see soon.
Yes,
we will see them soon.
That too.
Yeah, we should mention we haven't seen those, so those aren't on our list.
Yes,
they probably could be. You know,
I would expect.
Yeah,
I have high expectations for those two films.
But those two movies are a little more hyped. Parallel Mothers is a little more hyped. I don't think we have that on our list, but it's a great movie.
Yes,
very good.
Flea.
Yeah,
is one. We haven't seen Flea as well.
And that's the 4, I think.
Yeah, honestly, I'm more hyped for the foreign films than for the actual American films that are nominated for Best Picture, because foreign films are slapping this year.
They're doing way better, yeah. But like you're saying about it, I love the way that it took the concept of morality and it displayed it so eloquently so that you could understand how complex of a topic it is at this point in time, in today's day and age, how you have to think about so many different aspects. I think it did that, and the stress of capitulating to that moral creed very well. I love that.
Yeah, the public eye and the sense of being a human in the public eye is just so relevant nowadays, you know?
Yeah.
Being like a personality on or like a star or like a famous person in any sense. A lot of the social media really puts onto you to either be one or the other, whereas you're like a human being where you make mistakes and you do good sometimes, you do bad some other times, and that's just really hard for you to display, I guess, in the social media times. And even though there wasn't any social media in this movie, it tackled that thought, that struggle really well. And it was a pain to watch the whole time.
It was tough. It was tough.
The only thing that kept it from my top 5 was just that like I loved the experience during the movie and I didn't really think about it afterwards, which is the only thing that took it off my top 5, and it's like 6 there, so it's really up there.
It for the record, it is my 6th as well.
So yes.
I love it also. My next honorable mention would be the movie called Pig with Nicolas Cage. Came out this summer, a little indie pick about a chef and his pig that's taken from him, and it's a story of grief and loss and humility. Nicolas Cage gives a great performance, one of the best he's ever given, really, and Alex Wolff is in it as well. He's had quite a year for himself. And he gives a good performance also, and it's basically around those two characters. And what really struck me about the movie was how subtle it was. It never took the easy way out as far as writing this film went, and its depiction of grief and humanity. It was brutal at times. And Nicolas Cage is often just not saying anything. He definitely gives you expressions. I mean, it's Nicolas Cage, you know, like that's what he does.
Bees.
Yeah, he'll grunt every once in a while. But I think that's what really elevated the movie for me, was their ability to work in silence, to show not tell, the common trope that I think is very applicable here. and I really love this movie.
Yeah, that's another one that I need to watch still, because I've heard so many good things, and it sounds just right up my alley too. So.
Yeah, you would love it. You would love it.
All right, so would you like me to start with our number 5 of our top 5?
Oh, you don't have another honorable
Oh,
mention?
yeah, you do. You have a third one. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
oh,
go
man,
ahead.
I should have started. So that was
No
more even.
worries.
Okay. One more honorable mention, which is, I think, I love this movie. I was going to say my favorite honorable mention, but I don't even know if that's true. Actually, A Hero is my favorite honorable mention. But it's,
Mine too.
Yeah. My favorite one is Passing, of the one that I personally have. So Passing is a movie that came out recently, directed by Rebecca Hall, the actress, which I did not expect. I didn't see her having such an authorial vision, but she really does in this movie. It's a movie about, basically it's set in and around the 1940s and 50s, civil rights era, and it's in black and white, and it's about a black woman that meets an old childhood friend who she finds out is white passing, and her living in society as a white woman, and it's about their relationship, and it really tackles a lot of great critical race theory and kind of the situations that they would be in. Ruth Negga, she plays the white passing woman, and she, I think she gives the best performance she's ever given. She gives what I would consider to be the best supporting performance of the year. And I think she's criminally under-talked about, really. There's that, and there's the ability to create a sense of ambiance and atmosphere that I didn't expect from this movie. I thought it would just be a simple black and white film, but it actually took a lot of ambitious direction with the sound editing, and creating the background effects that I really fell in love with. The only thing that kind of pushed me back was it was just kind of weird that a white woman was making this movie, kind of in charge of this. I feel like that hindered it every once in a while, that perspective. But other than that, I thought it was a feat, and I am so excited to see what Rebecca Hall does next.
Is she the one that plays in Dune?
No, that's Rebecca
Ferguson.
Okay, yeah. Rebecca Hall, she's from Iron Man 3, the kind of girl that she's a scientist in Iron Man 3.
I feel like I might know who you're talking about.
The Night House. Did you watch The Night House?
Yes. Well, I didn't watch it, but I know who you're talking about now.
Yes. Yeah, she's the main character in The Night House. So I feel like she'd be a perfect fit for what's the guy that does Mike Flanagan?
Oh,
she'd be great in a Mike Flanagan movie. Her agent needs to get on that. But anyway, that's it.
All right. Well, that's going to start our top 5 then. I guess I shall start. Segueing into what I was mentioning earlier, my 5th pick is going to be Dune. And Joey knew that already. Just give him the soft pitch. Yeah. And Joey knew that already because, honestly, I love epic sci-fi. And I love epic sci-fi that almost gives you a very nuanced portrayal of the galaxy, or I would say world, but obviously it's not world. And I just fall in love with that type of stuff because I feel that there isn't gonna be, no blasphemy towards Star Wars or anything like that, but my personal preference doesn't lend towards a huge story about this chosen one that goes on to accomplish this destiny that they have. Even though there are aspects of a chosen one and a destiny in Dune, I think a lot of that is subverse in the way that the Dune story is supposed to unravel, in the sense that these things are manipulated and controlled. And obviously that's mostly about the story of Dune, but the way that Denis Villeneuve took his source and condensed it down into like a 2.5-3 hour movie was, I felt, really, really solid. And I know that Dune isn't exactly the most riveting of a book, you know? And so the fact that
you don't want to read 700 pages? 700 pages?
where like half of it is just descriptions before anything happens.
Literally, it's just political descriptions.
Yeah, and I think
it's great though. I love it. Sorry.
Obviously, there are people who think that, you know, it doesn't have an ending and it's like all set up. But I think that the way he paced it, there were mysteries and goals that Timothy Chalamet's character is trying to accomplish or learn about. And even when there isn't that, there's world building that's really interesting. You know, like the first scene that comes to my head is whenever he's forced to use not forced, but asked to use the voice the first time. Oh, yeah. And I think that's the really good way to introduce the voice. And it's like in the early sections of the movie where there's not a lot to motivate the characters yet, but we still learn about the world. And learning about the world makes me excited enough to continue watching. And so I think the pacing, I thought the art direction, directing, visual effects, everything like that really hit me a lot. And yeah, I think that is my assessment of Dune.
Well, I also think it's so hard to bring up Dune without bringing up Hans Zimmer's amazing score.
Yes.
I think it's some of the best work he's done in years, maybe since Inception hasn't dated well, but that's because it's so influential. Okay? Inception is a brilliant score, and I think it's his best work since that.
Oh wow, I would say it's his best work since Interstellar.
Oh yeah, never mind. He did Interstellar. Forgot about that.
Yeah, Interstellar, man. But even the ones, just little praise on Hans Zimmer. Even the ones that just like fly under the bus, like Superman, I still love that soundtrack.
Man of Steel.
Yeah, Man of Steel. That's right.
Definitely.
But yeah, did you have any comments on that?
I loved Dune as well. I don't think I loved it quite as much as you did, but I really enjoyed it. I am a really big fan of the book, so I was really excited for it to come on screen, and I'm excited for the next part as well.
Oh yeah.
I thought it was really well cast. It did a good job of showing the epicness, the scale of what was going on. And yeah, there was a lot of great things with it. The only slight criticisms I have is I feel like it gets a little too monotone at times. Like performances from Timothy Chalamet and Oscar Isaac feel a little flat at times for me. That's basically it. Most of the movie I was very happy with though, and especially which Skarsgård is it? It's one of them. It's the old one. Is it Alexander?
No, I don't think it's.
That's not him, right? Is it?
I don't know.
A Skarsgård.
Yeah, he was
best
great.
part of the movie for me, as far as performances go. The Baron of Harkonnen, and that's especially great because he's going to be a much bigger character in the second part. So yeah. I'm excited about it.
All right. I feel like we could have a whole podcast on Dune itself, even though we barely disagree. But yeah, I'll put that to rest. That's my fifth choice, and we'll go on to your fifth choice.
Okay, my fifth choice got the Palme d'Or at Cannes this past summer. It is called Titan, or Titan, or Titane.
Yeah.
I call it Titan. Yeah. I don't know. For the sake of today, I'm going to call it Titan. I thought it was a brilliant French movie about well, it's hard to say what it's about. It's hard to say. A woman has sex with a car.
That is one way to put it, yeah.
It's not even that's not even a spoiler. That's like the first 2 minutes. That's like the whole story. Basically.
You know, a reductive way of how to describe this movie in a general sense that I kind of hate myself for bringing up now that I'm talking about it is.
Well, okay, yeah. Let's see.
It's essentially a body horror nuance exploration of gender. If you were to imagine Nate Jacobs from Euphoria and his dad, that is literally this movie, except just done like so much better, and the body horror and the you know, car, metal, gasoline aspect. I know Joey doesn't know too much about Nate Jacobs.
I do not know.
And Euphoria, but you know, once you watch it, you know, maybe you'll agree with me.
Yeah.
But that is how I would describe that movie. Yeah.
Yeah, it has. I think the visual effects were amazing, especially with the girl. You know, like in her performance, especially the girl's performance.
Oh, she was great.
I forget the name of the director. I have a hard time picking up that her name, but she's the director of Raw.
And that movie is great too.
Yeah, we love Raw. We watched it this past year. And this was a great follow-up. I loved it even more than Raw.
Me too.
As far as I'm concerned. And I thought its exploration, like you said, into gender was the best part about it.
Oh, for sure. That was the androgyny that the main character was cast to be. You know, there is some goofy aspects to it in the sense like the dad kind of isn't able to tell that his son has been replaced type thing. But I think all of those...
Spoiler.
Yeah, I guess. Sorry about that. But I think all of these goofy aspects were used in a way that heightened the sense of the gender debate, I guess. And I think that is almost my favorite aspect of a film. I love the goofy, you know, like Eraserhead, David Lynch type stuff, you know. Yeah. But I love whenever they take the goofy and then they reflect it back on you and they're like, oh, well, this is like a goofy way. This is a goofy movie, but like goofy is kind of like how real life kind of unfolds, you know. And I think that was one of my favorite parts about Titan. No,
but also like I think what you're saying is totally spot on, and also like they go 100% with the goofiness. Yes. You know, they never break character, so I as the audience member never failed to take it seriously.
Yes, I think that's super important too, because you know, we'll kind of like giggle about things that happen, but whenever the characters take it seriously, you take it seriously. And I think that is the director's expertise in like betting on themselves and their knowledge of what is going to be engaging for the audience and what's not, you know. And whenever they bet on something, they're like, oh, I'm going to test your what's it called, your like dependence on like reality. You kind of push that thing, but it's not pushing it enough that, you know, it's like The Room type thing where if you were to take that seriously, you'd kind of be goofed on. It's like you kind of laugh at it, but then the director takes it seriously and you're like, oh man, this can be taken really seriously, you know.
Yeah.
So that moves on from our discussion of Titan. Is it my turn now?
It is your turn.
Okay. Yeah. So all right, so it's gonna be my fourth pick, which is gonna be Come On with Joaquin Phoenix.
Yes.
As opposed to Dune, it's almost like a flip of Dune. And I really like these as my fifth and fourth picks because one is about scale and ambition and visuals, whereas Come On is almost the opposite. It's about real life interactions between an uncle, I guess, and his nephew, and the lessons you can learn from children. And I know, obviously, that's really cliche, and, you know, a person who doesn't have a child talks to a child in a movie, and then they learn something. But even with that cynicism taken into the film, I felt that Come On did two things really great. The dialogue and the improv is number one.
Yeah.
There, I forget. I want to say I read something about how much Joaquin Phoenix and the kid improvise their lines, but I'm not going to swear to it. But even that, added with the dialogue and the if it were only just like beats that were dialogued out, the way that they connected was really authentic, I would say. And although I had seen a lot of movies like this before, I couldn't help but put it into my top 5 because I felt like it did something unique, it said something unique, and I connected to their relationship in a unique way. Never did I feel that the child was being too childish. I never felt like the Joaquin Phoenix was being too adult or too rigid in his way of thinking. And I think that's a great choice, that he is an interviewer of kids. So he kind of does know kids, but getting to know one kid for a long period of time versus interviewing them one at a time is in and of itself a different monster, a different beast, you know? And so he wasn't, some stuck-up Wall Street broker that has to take care of a kid for like a week, and he's like, oh man, many profound things, he is playing this dynamic with the kid and able to engage in him in a way that makes him feel like an adult, wiser, and yet being able to take things from it. And I think that is my favorite part of that film.
Yeah, you can definitely say the relationship between Joaquin Phoenix and the kid is the heart of the movie, as it's centered around. And I think that those two were the best part for me as well. Like the kid, you have a child performance and you're like, and you never want to like criticize a child performance because it's like, you never want to. It's just sometimes kid performances, they're just not as good as the adult ones. And actually this time I didn't think that. The kid was amazing. He was endearing, and he was believable, and he was unique. He was a very unique kid. Yeah. But he also had a lot of things that represent, the parent, child relationship as a whole. And I think a lot of the stuff that they said about the relationship with your kids and how to best raise a child and kind of that perspective really, really elevated the movie for me. So there was that. I like a lot of the things they did with the interviewing in general, like the idea of just recording something essentially makes it important. And I like that idea, and especially as us just talking to a camera for
recording things.
Yeah, we're basically doing something like that with like a couple people watching, but it's just the idea of like saying things, putting things into existence adds some sort of importance and some sort of credence and some sort of artistic intent. And that is the background for the movie is a really good place for it to be.
Yeah, just a regular archetype of a story, but just done in a very unique and different way. And that's my summary of Come On.
I would totally agree with you, and I love that movie. I think it's one that I'll hopefully come back to.
Yeah. All right, well, down to your fourth.
My fourth one is let me look. I can push for time. Okay, my fourth one is one that you haven't seen, I guess.
Oh,
but
interesting.
It's a most recent movie that came out, directed by Maggie Gyllenhaal. And it's called The Lost Daughter. It's Olivia Colman's in it, and she gives a brilliant performance of an anxious mother.
Hey, I'm gonna stop you right there. You can't say anything anymore because you gotta watch his video. His monologue on this movie, because you'll get all of this right here. And it was done very well, and I just want to push that real fast. I was behind the camera, so
Yeah. Well, yeah, it was a little project I started. I only did one video, but I was happy with it.
Yeah, you guys aren't allowed to hear his opinions until you go watch that video.
All right. Well, I'll keep it short, but yeah. Olivia Colman, brilliant, as always. Maggie Gyllenhaal, great direction. Incredible debut from a director. Dakota Johnson rules. I hadn't seen her be great in something in a while. but in this one, she is amazing, and she's perfectly cast. So just go watch it. It's
yeah, great. Yeah. I mean, it made me want to watch the movie, even though I was not in the Lost Daughter type camp before, because I was like, oh, it's just a Netflix movie. But after Joey's monologue, I'm like, oh shit, man, I gotta watch this movie.
Yeah. Well, what's your number 4 then?
Oh, my third one. I'm in front of you.
Oh shit. Yeah. Yep, of course.
My third one is gonna be Blue Bayou.
Yeah, Blue Bayou.
I wonder if that's gonna show up in Joey's list too. But I think I was in between moving Blue Bayou and Come On, Come On into different spots. But I felt that Blue Bayou was a lot more relatable to me, although I am not a middle-aged man interviewing a child and learning new things. I am an Asian American, maybe not immigrant, but second generation. But all the struggles that he goes through were just super relatable to me. And to summarize the movie, in a sense, it's about this adopted Asian American who is trying to make ends meet with his family while struggling with trying to not be deported because of the new laws that are coming in, making it so that people who are adopted can be deported if they don't have like the proper documentation or something like that, you know? And not just about being deported. I mean, none of my family has been threatened to be deported, which I am very thankful for. But the whole aspect of struggling to be an Asian American, and, you know, fitting in, learning new aspects and joining communities that kind of foster that, you know. One of the most influential scenes in that movie is when he goes, and he's not Vietnamese, but he meets this girl who has cancer, who is in a Vietnamese community, and she shows him kindness by inviting him, and he enjoys his time. And, you know, I'm not super like stick with my race type person, so it kind of almost makes me I've long story short, I've not had that great of an experience in that sense, but in this movie it almost made me want to reach out to like other Vietnamese people, and it's just like there is a certain aspect that you miss with other people that don't know like the struggles that those go through. And again, with child praising, the child in Blue Bayou was so good. And I feel that there are a lot of times, not gonna totally bash, but the first one that comes to my head is the Babadook.
Oh, you didn't like the kid from the Babadook?
I liked the kid up until like a certain point. Like, it didn't hinder the movie, but I'm saying this is the first thing that popped into my head is this annoying point with the Babadook kid. And that's like a general what's it called? Criticism with that movie is about that kid. But my point is just that like that's the first thing that pops into my head. And generally, when you're dealing with kids, there are some times where they can get annoying, even if they don't hinder the whole film, which I thought with the Babadook. It was a great film. The kid didn't hinder it, but there are moments, you know. With Come On, Come On and with Blue Bayou, I felt they never hindered. And even at the ending scene, she added so much to the gut-wrenching nature of the splitting of a family. And although I could see it coming, it was the performances and the direction that really like wrenched out feelings from me.
Yeah, no, I mean the girl in the movie did more than she did more than do her part, you know. She
more than neutral.
She was incredible. You know, this is quite a year for child performances.
Yeah.
Now that I think about it. I think what a lot of directors are doing well right now is they're casting children and they're not asking them to be people they're not.
Yes.
You know, they're asking them to be themselves, and inhabit these characters that way. And I think that's been tremendous as far as this movie, as far as Come On, Come On. Red Rocket has some child performances also. Belfast, the kid was very good in Belfast too.
I thought the kid was great.
I don't think we agree. We didn't love Belfast, but the kid was very good.
Yeah. And I think I really want to hammer home that aspect that you're trying to say. I was going to bring it up with Come On, Come On. I didn't want that to go too long. But I think there are no such thing as bad kid performances, because I feel like it's just bad direction.
Oh, yeah.
I feel like a kid performance it's not like they have their own thinking. Oh, not to say kids don't have their own thinking, but as like an adult, you have like a way you want to portray a character, and you kind of maybe fight with the director in that type of sense, you know? But a kid, it's just like wanting to please, wanting to act like themselves, that type of thing. So I feel like a kid can only have a bad performance because the direction is bad.
Yeah. I agree with that. I think that's a good statement. And I agree with you on everything you said on Blue Bayou. I love it. It's also on my list, so I won't talk too much more about it. But I think it's brilliant, beautiful, and everything in between.
All right. We'll move on to your third pick.
All right. My third pick, I don't think it's going to be on your list. No,
okay.
I would have said it if it were Blue Bayou. I would have joined in with you. But that's why I looked on my phone, actually.
Gotta check.
Like, I don't remember. Okay. But my pick, I don't know if you're going to have this one on your list. I actually kind of doubt it. But my third favorite film of the year was the new Wes Anderson movie, The French Dispatch.
Yes.
And I know that it wasn't poorly received, but it had some mixed reviews, generally mixed positive. People just didn't think it was his best thing he's ever made. And I disagree. I think it's like not his best thing. I think it's one of the best things that he's ever made. Nothing beats Grand Budapest Hotel for me.
Grand Budapest Hotel.
But this comes pretty damn close. And the reason behind that is obviously Wes Anderson, especially in this past decade, has created a style that is so unique and so visually pleasing and exciting to watch that I'll never not be excited for his movies. Even when a film he makes, it's not my favorite, it's always one that I'm happy I watched. Isle of Dogs comes to mind for that. A movie that I thought was fine. I thought it was pretty good, but loved watching it. Like, every second my eyes were on the screen was like candy. It was like visual candy.
Yeah.
So there was obviously Wes Anderson's direction, and then also the subject matter and the kind of romance he put into journalism, as with the romance he puts into everything. But it's just a field that I personally really sunk my teeth into. Journalism, something that I'm very interested in, especially creative journalism. And I never saw a movie do more for creative journalism than this movie did. So just as a kind of a personal bias there, it really hit me as far as that goes.
Yeah. I honestly feel like sometimes we have the same passions, because journalism is really interesting to me too. This is not on my list, but to a degree, it's mostly because I was just way too fucking high watching this movie.
Yeah, we got stoned as shit.
I was so high, I couldn't read the captions. They started moving. They went upward or something like that. I was so confused.
When he started playing with the subtitles, my stomach dropped. I was like, oh my god, do I have to actually read these right now?
I swear, there was something going on with the projection that on like the right bottom corner, there was a little bit of a purple tint.
Yeah.
And all I could think about was that and reading the captions. And even then, I loved the film so much. I don't think I love it to put it in the top 5, but if I had watched it again with a little bit more cognitive energy, I feel like it would be up in there. Because even if I didn't really understand the film and what was going on, I definitely felt that passion for like journalism, and I know it like influenced your plans for the future and your like ambitions and all that kind of stuff. And I think it kind of did to me as well. It made me think about how, you know, maybe marketing is not so much fun to do for the rest of your life. Maybe it didn't switch me over to journalism per se, but it did a radical shift in my thinking, and I feel like if I were to give it another watch, it might end up in my top 5, not gonna lie.
Yeah, I loved it. The only thing that stopped it from being my number one movie of the year, honestly, is that the second story was great instead of fantastic. That was it. Like, the second story was great, but it wasn't as good as the first story, which I thought was brilliant and a great portrayal of art. And it was just such an exciting story, you know, as far as where it went. It kept me on my toes. And maybe that's because I was high. I don't know. I was very high for the opening for sure. But there was just something about that. And Benicio del Toro's performance especially struck me. The artwork itself was actually very, very good that he did.
It's real artwork.
Yeah, it's actually
it's commissioned.
As far as art is concerned, like real art, it could stand up with, like, I could see that in a museum and I'd be very impressed.
Yeah, they had someone like an artist paint those things and then they put it in the film. So
yeah. And you can tell
you can tell
really put work into that. And then also the way that Jeffrey Wright's character in the third story, Wright. The way he connects food with journalism and using that as part of telling his personal story, I'm gonna steal that. Like, that's like the most brilliant thing I ever saw in my life.
Your 2 favorite things.
That, oh my gosh, when he would be writing about food as a way of painting a picture of the scenery and where he was at, like the detail he would show you and the passion he would talk about, like what drink he was having and why he was having the food he was having, talking with the chef, using that as a source for gaining more information. And the love and passion he had for the world while he was working, that resonated with me personally a lot.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I feel like we could also discuss this movie for a whole thing.
Yep.
I want to bring up like a little bit about Wes Anderson-y, but you know, that's just a thought.
It was very Wes Anderson. So,
all right.
What's the next one?
Second film, right?
Mm-hmm.
Down to the 2. So this is gonna be pretty short. My second is gonna be Titan.
Nice.
Yeah, I feel like it's right up my alley. A little bit of horror, a little body horror is really nice too, obviously, and tackling something metaphorically, I guess, or symbolically, you know, gender being over masculinity and femininity to a degree. Obviously, it's not as feminine as Raw, but honestly, Raw was super great in that too. I just, you know, have a little bit more connection to masculinity. Really? I don't know why.
Who knows?
So yeah, for some random reason. But tackling it in the perspective of the main character and her relationship, or their relationship to the dad, and his hyper masculinity is so good, and the connection that a person feels for another person despite gender, it just makes, I don't know, it makes you really rethink stereotyping people, I guess. And I took a lot from that film in understanding other people and life and everything like that, and I think that that's why it's my second. I mean, I'm not going to say too much more because we've discussed mostly, but
yeah. No, I mean, I agree with that totally, and I think it does a good job of breaking down the gender binary, kind of these ideas that gender's one thing or the other are obviously starting to go out the window, and not a whole lot of movies actually represent that. So for a movie to apply that, and especially use it as the tone for a horror movie, obviously the director. She's very good at directing horror, as she did with Raw. But
Yeah.
it's a very scary process in general, finding out your gender and discovering that for yourself. And it really does a good job of metaphorically portraying that.
And I think to bring up one last thing, I feel like gender as a weapon is really good.
Yeah.
Like in the beginning, before it crashed, although that's not the first thing we watched because we came in late.
Yeah, we came in late.
The first thing we watched was her, strip dancing or dancing on a car using her femininity to gain what she wants, and then it's using her gender throughout the whole film when she transitions into hiding her femininity to come in with a dad and live with him. It's weaponizing gender, and that is also a super interesting topic, let alone gender identity, but gender weaponization. Like That was really cool.
Yep.
Well, those are my closing thoughts on Titan. So now on to your second pick, unless you have something.
No. Titan. We said enough about Titan.
Yeah.
We both love Titan. It's both in our top 5 lists.
Yes.
It's kind of hard not to put it there, really. And it's not hard. It's hard to put. God damn it. I keep stumbling on all my words today. I'm sober right now. Actually, no, I'm not. But
yeah.
Anyway,
I wasn't gonna say anything.
So my next
Number
movie,
2.
it's hard to not include this movie as well in our top 5 list, and that is Blue Bayou as my number 2 movie.
There it is.
And obviously, there's so much about this movie that's impactful, especially giving the Asian American culture experience is a very big deal.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, I'm not able to relate to that as deep a level as you are, but there are so many things about this movie that I loved and appreciated.
Yeah.
Especially how beautiful it was. And I think it's a good lesson for filmmakers to say that beauty does not need to be flashy. You know, you don't have to be flashy to be beautiful. And the way that this movie used color, especially blues and greens,
Yes.
Sometimes reds, but I thought it was the best use of color I've seen in a long time. I don't even know when.
3 colors blue. Just kidding.
Better than 3 colors blue.
Really? Okay.
And I love 3 colors blue more than this movie, but I think the way it used color was so subtle, and it was so necessary. And it felt like artwork oftentimes. Not like painting, but photography. So that is obviously something I wanted to bring up, as well as the lead actor's performance. I hadn't heard of him before either. Very similar to Red Rocket, actually, getting these kind of new faces in here. And he directed the movie as well, if I'm not mistaken.
So good.
Director, actor, producer, he did it all, and I'm so glad he did, because his vision was always on screen, and his character was so heartfelt, so beautiful, funny, realistic. He just had it all, and his communication with his family was the heart of the movie, and he sold it completely.
I think that the recognition this movie gets is criminal. Like, it made no money. No one saw it. When we came to see it, we were the only people in the theater. It almost is comparable to Come On, Come On in the sense that it's like a real portrayal of a family and a dynamic between a child and a dad. And I think that this movie elevates it. Not necessarily that you need stakes, but the stakes in this movie really elevate the film.
Oh, yeah.
If it had no stakes, it would be like a Come On, Come On. But because it had stakes, it was a higher pick to me than Come On, Come On. Because that's like, a middle-class family trying to learn more about themselves, about others. This is like a struggling family fighting for their ability to stay together as they're learning, as they're navigating what it means to make money, stay out of crime, live an honest life, and the forces that prevent that, you know?
Absolutely. And that's kind of close to the documentary we're doing
Yeah.
this week too, but that's tabled for later.
Next episode, guys.
Yeah, well, that episode might even come out before this does. So,
yeah.
Anyway, yeah, that's a great part of it, and I think they do a good job of, you know, and this is a real life issue, you know, like connecting it to reality and understanding that this is a real thing that's going on impacts the movie in a way that separates it.
Yeah, the ending where it showed that there are many people who are getting deported or who are facing deportation, that I think, you know, there's like a lot of ending stuff where the first thing that comes to mind is like Conjuring, where they add like, oh, this is what's going on. Ed and Lorraine are like real people, and you know, it almost kind of gives you like a creepy, this is kind of real. But this one gave like a hit to home. Yeah. It's like the movie was so real and so heart-wrenching, and then you see that this is happening to people like in real life right now. It almost subverts the dramatization of filmmaking, in my opinion. Because this film felt so real, it almost made you forget that it's about real life. But it is about real life. And so it kind of like puts itself in a loop where it's like, oh, well, this is a dramatization, but not really, because it's so realistic, but it's also based on true events, so you have to really think about real life when you're watching this film. And the second time I watched it, hit just as like hard, you know, even knowing all of the things that I knew.
Yeah, and the ending especially, I was actually nervous about when I was in the movie. I was like, they got to nail this ending, man.
Yeah.
You know, they better not mess this up.
Yeah.
And they actually gave a better ending than the rest of the movie. It was like,
yes.
It made me want to cry. I was like so emotionally invested, and they you know, they went with things that you can see coming, but you're like, please do it anyway.
Yes.
I want to see this kind of relationship form. And another thing also with that is like the idea that this movie and this story is so epic in scale and emotional and investing, and the movie's idea and the thought that they want to share is that this is hundreds of lives have stories just like this that are being taken away as well. Mm-hmm. So it's got more than just one person on their shoulders.
Mm-hmm. And I think like two last things I want to praise about this film is first the villain.
Oh yeah.
Because I felt like he had a great arc, and there was an easy cop out to just have him be an asshole the whole time. But the way they dealt with him was really interesting and really subversive. And the second is this aspect of like other families, you know. There is an easy way to make the child like go and be abrasive at the very end, you know, and create this conflict at the very end, and maybe even make it a little sadder. And although I did kind of expect her to be like, no, I want you to stay, I was still tensed up at the end. I'm like, shit, is she gonna do it? Like, is she gonna like ghost my guy like up until the very end? Like they did things that were predictable, but just in a way, I guess the best way to say it is that like if you set up your characters, then even if it's predictable, it'll pay off. Because even if I know that she's gonna like call out for him, I was still nervous. I was like, what if she isn't? What if she doesn't? You know, like.
Yeah, and you know that's what the character would do.
Yeah.
So it's not like it's unearned. Mm-hmm. It's not like they set it up that way just to tug at your heartstrings. Yeah. Although they kind of did. But, but it makes sense. It's very significant, and it's what most, I think, 7 or 8 times out of 10, that's how the story would play.
Yeah. All right. Well, we're on
number one.
Number one.
Whoa.
Wow.
What's it gonna be?
I can't predict yours either. So this is interesting right here.
Yeah,
I don't know if you
mine,
can predict
actually.
mine. I don't know if you can predict mine. You might be able to.
No, I can't.
I think it's a little bit out there, only because it's very early, and it has stayed the test of time. So I think that this is a really good first pick. And that's going to be David Lowery's new film, The Green Knight.
Yeah, of course.
I mean, coming from a ghost story, that's a lot to hold up to, because A Ghost Story is one of my favorite films about time travel and being dead, I guess, like being a ghost.
And you know what? We did a podcast on The Ghost Story.
Yes, we did.
On this channel. So if you want to know more about it.
David Lowery's first film? I can't remember any other films besides this one.
Well, he did Pete's Dragon.
Oh, true. Okay, don't think about
forget that one.
Yeah. That is probably one of my favorite movies of all time. And so this coming off from that one to do The Green Knight. And there's a lot of hurdles that he had to go through, because this is like a story of legend, I guess. It's also doesn't deal with time travel. I guess it kind of deals with death to a little. And it's just very different, because this is realistic, one room, one house type ghost moving from time to an epic story about Sir Gawain or Sir something with a G.
I don't know.
And his quest to, I guess, defeat the Green Knight. And it was just wonderful. I mean, I could describe a little bit more about the film. It's his so in the beginning you have the Green Knight that travels into this kingdom, and he says, like, anyone who wants to challenge me. And so Dev Patel's character challenges him, and all the Green Knight does is kneel down, and he'll like take whatever hit. But the prophecy goes is that whatever hit you deal to him, he'll deal to you in a certain amount of time. And I don't know what the fuck is going through his mind. He's like, let me just chop off this guy's head, because that's like the big brain thing to do. So he chops off his head, and then the Green Knight picks up his head, and he's like, I'm going to do that to you later. Bye.
Oh, man. Yeah. Such a great setup.
Yeah, it's such a good one. And in the sense, it's not as reductive as I make it out to sound. He's trying to gain honor and notoriety in the kingdom. And so you kind of understand this type of child who wants to prove himself no matter the consequences, you know? And so after that, after the time has passed, he is sent on this journey to go find the Green Knight again. And it's just a fantastical journey about 1, honor, 2, morality, and 3, oh man, I just forgot the third one. 3, Christianity.
Cool. Yeah. Oh yeah, sure.
Yeah. Sacrifice and that kind of stuff. And wow, it was just an insane epic of a film about morality and honor. And I think that that's the best way to say it.
Yeah, and we were talking about color in Blue Bayou, but as this movie is incredible with color also. It's a lot more flashy with it visually, but it's all earned, and it's all unique. It's a color palette that I've never fully seen before, but it takes from a lot of great eras. You know, it actually takes from this is gonna be way out there, but you know, the Disney movie The Black Cauldron?
No.
Considered one of the worst Disney movies ever made. And I don't mean that as an insult to this movie at all. It had a very similar color palette, which it had like one of those old school kind of fantasy Disney kind of color palettes, and I thought it elevated it a lot. And I happen to love the Black Cauldron. It's terrible. It's so bad, but it's so funny. It's so funny, guys. But anyway, that it just kind of reminded me of that kind of old school European fantasy Disney kind of approach, which is a very applicable visual style to go for, as you're talking about Arthurian story.
Yeah, I think to add on to that, it is almost like taking, like Red Riding Hood,
Red Robin.
Yum. Red Riding Hood, and then or something like like Cinderella or Ariel, taking that from Hans Andersen or whatever his name is that like wrote the original story and like Disneyifying it. This is taking a mythological story, but it doesn't Disneyify it.
No. No, it doesn't.
Yeah, it twists it into commenting on a lot more heavy and convoluted type themes. One of my favorites, and I could go on for a whole video of like a whole hour about this,
of course,
but one of them is about like self-sacrifice, and when he meets the Green Knight, he does two of three things. One is running away, obviously, because he's like, oh man, I don't want to get my head chopped off,
Yeah.
And then the second is to get his head chopped off. And he just bows down. He's like, I'm so scared. I'm about to get my head chopped off. And it's like fulfilling what you need to do, but unwillingly, It's like, oh shit, like I need to do this, but I don't want to, Who wants to die? Mm-hmm. And that is the wrong answer too. And that almost makes me think about like crucifixion and like Jesus. There's like a lot of Christian symbolism to it, and then like self-sacrifice and how self-motivating, like an action that's self-motivated versus an action that's that's group motivated is almost the same type of moral struggle in that sense. It's like when he runs away, he's like, oh well, I just want to preserve my own life. But then when he bows down, it's not that he wants to die, he just wants to complete, and he wants to do the right thing for everyone, and yet in that sense it also denies satisfaction.
He's scared of his pride. Like it's exactly
this huge thing.
It's not exactly pure moral gold. It comes from some sort of pressure, which I totally love that about the movie, and the way it deals with morality is one of the best parts, I think.
I think it takes that human aspect that we were talking about earlier and just like turns it into a fantastical story, and I think that is the formula to hit me, because I mean, I love movies that are just like slice of life type things that are trying to teach you, but I prefer generally not like a documentary. I prefer the theatrics of it, and I think it took that theme and made it theatrical.
And this movie definitely was theatrical. All right.
Well, last one.
I'll give you mine. And mine is a movie that you haven't seen. I should show you sometime. And I'm not fully convinced that this is my number one, actually, because I've only seen it once. I've only seen all of these movies once, though. So, and just for the record, they are all so close with each other that next week you could ask me and I'd have a different order.
Which you will do, right, in the comments?
Absolutely. I'll comment every week. But anyway, I love this movie. And this is a movie that came out this summer about, it's based off of a Twitter exchange. It's made by A24, and the movie's called Zola. and it's about a teenager. She runs into a stranger who befriends her at the place where she works, and she's like, "Hey, why don't you just come with me, and we're just gonna have a blast taking this road trip all the way down to Florida, and we're gonna make some money, and we're gonna hang out on beaches, and it's gonna be the best time in the world." And she gets roped into a prostitution crime ring, and the movie's about how she deals with that, the kind of problems that arise along the way, the abusive criminal boss that they have to deal with that takes them on the trip, is one of the best performances I've ever seen. It's by, he was also in Candyman this year. He was
I didn't know his name.
Maybe I'll put his name on like a little thing or something. Maybe
Asterix.
I won't. Yeah. He was
It'll crash his computer.
It will crash my computer. I'm already thinking about putting pictures for when we say the movies. I don't even know if it can handle that. I don't know. We'll see. But anyway, he plays the crime boss. I'll let you know later anyway, because I want to tell you about it. But he is brilliant, and the two lead actresses are brilliant. There's a lot of things about the movie that I love. First of all, it's absolutely hilarious. There are so many hilarious, setups and interesting ideas that come out of it that I love. And it knows when to take itself seriously as well. It can be incredibly funny, and then on a dime, it gets dead silent. And the way that they're able to navigate that is one of my favorite parts.
Dang, this is been a movie that you've been suggesting for so long, and I know I'll like it too. I feel like, just to comment on our own particular tastes, it's really interesting how similar they are sometimes. I really love comedies. It's just really hard to hit those comedies in the right way, and I'm really expecting, if I ever do watch this film, which I probably am,
low key, I might suggest it tonight.
I'm down
if it's my turn. I don't know.
Yeah, well, yeah, just like the comedy aspect of things, it's almost
no, and there's a lot of things. I think you would love it. I don't necessarily think that this would be your favorite movie of the year. I don't think anyone else thinks that, actually. This is kind of just a personal, as far as the movie-going experience goes. I had a great time with it, and it was incredibly entertaining and investing, while also giving me thrills and suspense, and it was able to do that and encapsulate that in a way that I felt spoke to our generation more than film has in the past.
Yeah.
And so for me, that's where my love of it came from. I think I watched it with Carmen Larkin, actually, a friend of ours, and she encapsulated it well when she said, like, there were a lot of times where I felt like the movie stood still, and it was made by TikTok. It was like it had a very similar color palette and a similar like Gen Z kind of ideas behind it. And I didn't think of it that way until after the movie, but contextualizing it as that changed a lot of thinking I had about it. So I'd be excited to watch it again.
Yeah, and which is really surprising to me is that our first picks were both not nominated for anything.
Yeah. Yeah, what a surprise,
Oh, man. So we hold that pretentiousness in ourselves. We're like, oh, yeah, our favorite movies are nominated for Academy of shit, bro.
Yeah, why not just watch Belfast instead?
Yeah.
I love King Richard. Let's watch King Richard.
Bro.
Oh, what the fuck? Who's voting on this?
Yeah, I know. Like the what is the Steven Spielberg one?
Oh, West Side Story.
West Side Story.
People love that shit.
I
don't know why.
So not interested in that movie at all.
The direction is actually okay. It's his best direction in a while.
Huh.
But But the whole movie's flawed. Why would you even do that?
The original.
Yeah. The original wasn't even that good. Why would you make a remake of... Anyway, I think the camera's died, so we probably want to wrap it up a little.
That is our top 5. It was supposed to take 20 minutes, and it has taken an hour and 15 because we just love talking about our movies so much.
Yeah.
So there it is. And, I'm really interested in other people's thoughts. So if anyone has any other opposing thoughts or anything like that. I know there's a lot of movies I haven't watched specifically, that Joey's more convincing me every minute to watch. And there is also The Worst Person in the World and Drive My Car that we're going to watch hopefully this week. Yep. And so if we go on another video and be like, hey, this is where these two movies slip into our top 5s, knock down a couple, move a couple, anything like that, be on the lookout for that, because I have high expectations for both of those films, and I don't expect them to be anywhere outside of like top 10 at least.
Yeah, and hopefully we'll get some short reviews of them too.
That would be great.
20-minute reviews. Not like this 20 minutes, like real 20 minutes.
Real 20 minutes. We've done it before.
Yeah, I don't know how we did it now that
honestly,
I think about it.
Yeah.
But
I feel
yeah.
Well, I was just gonna say if you wanted to continue it, just because whenever we first watch a film, it's really hard to like talk a long time,
True.
Because you just have your first thoughts.
All right.
Cool.
Well, that's it.
Episode 1.
Subscribe or something.